Okay, next video then is about the Saar and the Rhineland. What we're going to look at here is really the early days of Hitler's foreign policy. We'll start off with the Saar, so it's 1935. The Saar had been taken as part of the Treaty of Versailles, and it came under League of Nations controls. It was a very industrial area for Germany. It was famous for its coal fields. Wouldn't have paid the reparations off in any way, but it would have helped Germany out economically a little bit at this time. Now, what you need to firstly understand is that there was a plebiscite with the Saar. So when the Saar was taken away from Germany by the Treaty of Versailles, it was always going to be the result of a plebiscite in 15 years, which is a posh term for a vote. So this plebiscite was always scheduled to happen in 1935, and basically there was going to be a vote amongst the people of what they wanted to do, whether they wanted to come back to Germany, whether they wanted to go in the remain under League of Nations control, or whether or not they wanted to go to France. Now, what was always going to happen was that the people were going to want to go back to Germany. They were German, they considered themselves Germans. So you had about 90% of the people who voted in January 1935 said, we want to go back to Germany, we want to become part of Germany again. And this was always going to happen. It was never in doubt. The Nazis used this as a huge propaganda victory, and it was shown as like the first real major part of the Treaty of Versailles that was overthrown. It would have happened under anyone, but the key bit really is how Hitler and the Nazis used it in their propaganda to show, it's basically step one in overthrowing the Treaty of Versailles. We told you so. Okay, so that's 1935. The next bit, 1936, is the Rhineland, and I would argue this is a lot more important. The Rhineland was on the French border. As part of the Treaty of Versailles, it was demilitarized. This means that there was no military presence allowed there by Germany, so it was not allowed to become a threat to France. There was no way France would be threatened. So it was a military term of the treaty. It was in no way taken away from Germany. The Rhineland was part of Germany. It was on the French border. They just weren't allowed to have any type of military presence there at all. So France wasn't allowed to be bullied. Now, on March the 7th, 1936, Hitler orders his troops to go in, and the fear was that his army wasn't strong at this point. It wasn't sufficiently built up, and Britain and France could have united to stop him. He was even advised by the army and the ministers, and his ministers in Germany, his political advisors, don't do it. Right? Now, this is quite important because nothing was done, and it's going to encourage Hitler to keep on pushing it, basically. Britain and France didn't want a war, right? No one wanted a repeat of World War II. So it really was, in my opinion, and on the exam board as well, it was really, I think, our last chance to oppose Hitler without going to war, because Germany in 1936 was weak. Militarily, they were weak. So if France had stepped in and Britain had stepped in, Hitler would have been forced to back down. But he'd seen the divide between Britain and France. He'd seen the problems in the League of Nations, and basically he took a calculated risk and went in there. He couldn't have took the French on in 1936. He was advised not to do it. And when this actually, when Hitler did this, he really calculated it as like a win-win scenario, because he was either going to get the Rhineland, which is what the League of Nations' inactivity was showing him would happen, or he was going to see France turn around and basically invade the Rhineland and make Germany stop. And then he could have portrayed this as Germany as being like a martyr, being bullied for standing up against the Treaty of Versailles, against a horrendous oppressive French army. So Hitler really calculated very closely what he was doing. Now, there was no way the French were going to act without British support. Um, France was also feeling quite safe because the Maginot Line was underway, so France felt as though they were okay. They were going to be fine anyway. Britain was not prepared to go to war over the Rhineland. Britain didn't agree with what it with the Treaty of Versailles anyway, and they were assured that this, they saw it was seen as like this is just another Germany putting right what had been done wrong to them before, and the British view is that this was Germany marching into their own back garden. They're allowed it, it's their country, they own the Rhineland, so what? So what if they put their soldiers there? And that was the British government view. So Hitler basically gets away with this, and what he did was he held a vote in Munich at this time, and 99% of those people who voted said they were in favour of Hitler's policy of going into the Rhineland. They backed what he was doing. And this was obviously shown to the people in Germany that show Hitler's strong, and look at Hitler, he's great, and we're behind you 100%. But it also was shown to the world to say, well, this is what the German view is of the Treaty of Versailles. This is how we feel, and this is how our leader is being backed. Hitler also, because he's getting away with this, is proven right. So he's basically saying to his ministers, well, I was right. I'm going to continue being bold, and it encourages him and makes him more confident. Britain and France, it is true, were also very worried about what was going on in Abyssinia, because this is going alongside, the Rhineland is operating alongside the Abyssinian crisis, and they're very worried about Mussolini's actions there, and the League has obviously been shown to be ineffective, and this is why Hitler really calculated he would get away with it. Hitler really got a slap on the wrist. He offered a 25-year peace treaty, and it was the last chance to stop Hitler was gone. If you want to look at it chronologically, he will then go straight on to signing the Rome-Berlin Axis. So obviously the fallout from the Abyssinian crisis will drive Mussolini and Hitler together. Rome-Berlin Axis is signed, and it marked, really, this was the death of the League of Nations. Even though the League would keep going until after World War II, this was the death of it, because they were ineffective in Abyssinia, failed with another breaking of the Treaty of Versailles, and they've driven Hitler and Mussolini into each other's arms. So, last chance, 1936, to stop Adolf Hitler. Germany next time they really raised their heads, 1938, and he's got an army by this point. So the chance was missed. There's a clear divide between Britain and France, and Britain sees it as Germany marching into their own back garden. What's it got to do with us? France will not act without Britain. So there'll be a video coming shortly on the Anschluss. I hope this helps. Okay.